Paper, plastic, glass, metal. These are a whole bunch of recyclables, and where does it all go once you've dropped it off in your recycling bin? We always hear it's such a good thing to recycle, but is it really going where we think they are? These are some of the questions I had, and I've been recycling for many, many years now, and I wanted to know what happens beyond the bin. Where do these recyclables get handled in Portland, and what problems have plagued the system? Also, what types of materials do these things actually end up becoming? How are they reused, and so on and so forth? Well, this whole process starts on your curbside pickup. From a recycling truck to pick it up and bring it to a nearby, local, but massive sorting facility, many of yours probably goes to the Far West Recycling in Hillsborough. Oregon Metro, the organization that oversees the solid waste systems in the Portland metro area, reports that this mishmash of recycling materials, everything that comes from your bins, and even some of the garbage that accidentally gets thrown in there, ends up going on a whole bunch of series of conveyor belts. And this is where it goes through a bunch of screens that sort out the papers, goes under a huge magnet to pull out anything metal, and then actually goes through a bunch of workers to sort out anything that might damage the machines or just will contaminate everything in the recycling mix. Now once they're sorted into their respective piles, it heads out to actually be recycled. Some of the recycling, including most of the plastic, about half the paper, and a little bit of the metal goes overseas to markets mostly in Asia. For a while we relied on China quite a bit, less so in recent years, but I'll get into that in a little bit. But some of the recycling actually stays right here in Portland. Glass, for example, goes right by the PDX airport to a local cleaning and bottling facility so they can melt down, crush everything you have, and make it into a whole bunch of other stuff. Probably not a glass, but probably a whole bunch of bottles, because we're a beer town, I'm pretty sure. However, this process isn't and wasn't always quite so easy. In fact, there was a recent period of time where so much of our recycling actually went right into the landfill. Previously, it had been profitable for China to take in all of our recycling and garbage and use it for their own sakes, because our plastic was, I guess, of much higher quality, and they had a bunch of cheap labor over there, as you probably know, it's a whole nother topic, but this started becoming a huge pollution and health hazard for their country. Starting in 2013, they began by implementing a policy to reduce the amount of incoming post-consumer material. And then in 2017, they enacted this national SOAR policy, which basically put in huge, severe restrictions on the types of incoming recyclables, but then they decided to take it even another step further in the following year. They established a contamination standard of 0.5% on all incoming recyclables, as written by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality, or everyone's favorite DEQ. Now, a contamination standard is the fact that they only will allow a certain amount of garbage in with the recycling before it gets sent to them, or they won't take it. Now, 0.5% is not half can be garbage, half can be recycling. 0.5% is half of a percent of the recycling can be contaminated. Now, at the time, Oregon did not have this, so there could virtually be no plastic mixed with the paper, no food waste left with the plastics, and no garbage in with the recycling, or they just wouldn't take it. As Oregon's contamination was far exceeding 0.5% at the time, they couldn't really do anything but take a lot more time to clean what they had, which means they could only take in a less amount, and everything else that they had, well, storage is expensive and hard to come by. They had to go straight to the landfill, and they would not take it. OPB states that over 10,000 tons of Oregon's recycling was actually sent to the landfills between June 2017 and June 2018, during these times that they were implementing these policies in China. And as China's imports on plastics decreased by 99.3% from 16.2 billion pounds of plastic to only 110 million pounds compared to that 2016 total, as reported by NPR, this means that if they were to completely shut off imports, then we would have to rely on the landfills once again until we found new markets or found a better way to recycle here in the US. That doesn't happen too much. Mostly going out of the country is better economically. But since then, many strides have been made with processes becoming much quicker, partially from recyclers taking in less types of materials, but also since we've dove into new markets. So what actually comes out of the things we recycle? Well, logically, everything's treated a little bit differently. Paper, plastic, metal, glass, it all has a different process. So paper is turned into a slurry. It's mixed with a lot of chemicals, a lot of water, then you bleach the heck out of it just so it's completely white until it can be pressed and dried into a variety of different products. Glass is one of the easiest things to recycle. It just needs to be crushed, remelted. As I said, that happens here in Portland. You have to mix it with a little bit of new sand and make a whole bunch of glass things. If that could be recycled, I'm not actually quite sure if it was. Plastic works similarly as it gets chopped up, ground down to powder and melted down to be reformed, although this doesn't work with all types of plastic. There's actually about 7 types of plastic that are in commercial uses, and so that's why each one has a different number, and these numbers represent the type of plastic, but not all types of plastic can be recycled, and so that's why recyclers only accept certain types. So yeah, that's really what happens beyond the bin. From the time in a local sorting facility to traveling offshores or nearby to be repurposed and used once again. Our recyclables seem to just disappear once we put it in that bin and say goodbye. But really, they're all around us in grocery stores, in our homes, possibly, hopefully. But if they aren't treated right or mixed with the wrong things, then they'll just miss their shot and end up in a pile of rubble. Well, that's all I got. Thanks for listening.